And now we are going to officially start our MRC Oversight Committee meeting. Welcome, everybody. My name is Nicole Heath. I am the Director of the Hazardous Materials Programs here at the Contra Costa Health. I am also the Chair of the MRC Oversight Committee. It has been a couple of months since we have met, and we're going to dive right into our agenda today. I will ask, I see we're getting some feedback, if everyone can please ensure they're muted. Thank you. We're going to start today talking about old business. So since our last Oversight Committee meetings, we had brought forth to the Oversight Committee presentations from both TRC on the Community Risk Assessment and Toxicologist Report. We had also brought over a draft presentation from GEM Advisors on the Incident Investigation Root Cause Analysis. After we had those presentations, we did go through our normal process of having the Oversight Committee members make comments on the report and incorporated those comments into the report. From there, we did open a public notice, which started on June 10th and closed on July 25th. This public notice also had a public meeting, which was held on June 17th to discuss both reports. I would like to report that the public notice, has ended. We have received the comments from the public, and we are now working to address those comments from both the public meeting and all of those that have been received via email or USPS mail. And then we will be moving forward towards presenting the final report out. The final report will be done at the Industrial Safety Ordinance Ad Hoc meeting in front of the Board of Supervisors. The representatives on that committee are Supervisors John Joya and Supervisor Chanel Scales Preston. And that meeting is scheduled for September 29th, and we will be sending details about that to our constant contact listserv so that you would be able to keep apprised of that meeting day and those final presentations. So I'd like to pause here and see if any members of the Oversight Committee have a question on the next steps for those public notice. Just as a reminder for my members of the community who are joining us here today, there is a space at the end of the meeting where we will allow all of you to have 2 minutes for public comments. So I will not be taking any questions from the public at this time, just the Oversight Committee members. Okay, I don't see any hands up or anyone coming off mute. So now I'd like to go to our next item on our agenda, which is new business. As you all may recall, part of the evaluations that we will be doing, the last step is to conduct a full facility audit management systems evaluation. The county has entered into contract with Eastern Research Group, or ERG, to perform this full facility audit, and they are here with us today to introduce the Oversight Committee to their team and to give an overview presentation of what exactly a full facility audit is and the timeline process behind that. So I'm going to turn it over to Zach to begin. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Nicole. I really appreciate the opportunity to present here today. Sarah, I think as you have the opportunity to share your screen, we'll get things started, and I'll actually let Brooke McCown, who will be one of the leaders of the full facility audit and management systems evaluation team, kind of kick things off here and get things started with our discussion. So thank you again for y'all's time, and looking forward to this presentation.
Great. Thanks so much, Zach and Nicole. Yeah, we're here to talk through the full facility audit and management systems evaluation of the Martinez Refining Company. My name is Brooke McCown. I'll be providing a little more detailed introduction to myself as well as the rest of our team in a few slides. But first, I'd like to just provide an introduction into ERG, or Eastern Research Group, as Nicole mentioned. So ERG, we're an environmental consulting company with over 900 employees across the country. Our primary clients are federal and state agencies that we support with environmental assessments, economic and policy analyses, facility planning, and occupational health evaluations. Most relevant to why we're here today talking to you all is that ERG supports US EPA's enforcement program, and we have been doing that for the past 25 years. And we have been supporting the Clean Air Act Risk Management Program, Compliance and Enforcement Program for EPA for more than the last 18 years. And for those who may not be familiar with the Risk Management Program, or RMP. If you're more familiar with the CalARP, or the California Accidental Release Prevention Program, or CCH's Industrial Safety Ordinance, the RMP is basically the analogous federal regulation that would cover similar topics there. So that's really our area of expertise. We have conducted hundreds of inspections and investigations under those federal provisions, and we have a dedicated team of chemical and environmental engineers that specialize in this process safety and management systems evaluations, like we'll be conducting at MRC. This is really kind of what our team does day in and day out, doing these types of assessments and evaluations. So I think with that, we can introduce our team that we have on the call today. There's 4 of us here from ERG, and myself, Anthony Gaglione, and Sarah Biscardi are the folks who will be the actual audit team, who will be on site at MRC and reviewing the documentation. And Zachary Good is on as well, who is kind of our project manager and contracts manager on this as well, to kind of oversee everything and all the deliverables. So with that, I'll let everyone kind of introduce themselves individually and provide their background, and I'll hand it off to Anthony.
Okay, thanks, Brooke. I'm Anthony Gaglione. I'm a senior chemical engineer here at ERG, where I've been here for over 18 years now. I have bachelor's and master's degrees in chemical engineering, and I'm a licensed professional engineer in the state of Virginia. My 18 years of experience include a wide range of chemical safety and environmental regulatory development and enforcement topics. I have a strong emphasis in chemical safety, and in particular, process safety. I've conducted over 50 inspections and investigations under the US EPA's Federal Risk Management Program, and I particularly specialize in refineries. I do a lot of case development support for both EPA and the Department of Justice for case development under those federal programs.
Okay, and I'll introduce myself in more detail. As I mentioned, Brooke McKeown. I have a bachelor's degree in chemical engineering, and I have more than 13 years of experience in multimedia environmental compliance, with a particular focus on process safety, the RMP, or the Risk Management Program, as we previously discussed, and various emergency management and community right to know requirements, federal requirements such as EPGRA and CERCLA. I've conducted over 25 RMP inspections and investigations at a number of different facilities, including several refineries, and I also support case development for EPA.
Hi, folks. My name is Sarah Biscardi. I received my bachelor's degree in chemical and biomolecular engineering, and I recently received my master's degree in environmental planning and management. I'm also a certified safety professional, or CSP. I've been with ERG for 8 years now, mostly specializing in process safety and regulatory compliance support. Along with Anthony and Brooke, I've conducted about over 25 RMP inspections and investigations at refineries, chemical plants, warehouses, a big array of types of facilities there. And outside of my support to the EPA, I also support Department of Defense clients with various process safety management efforts for highly hazardous chemical processes. Over to you, Zach.
Thank you, Sarah. Yes, and hello, my name is Zachary Good. I'm a chemical engineer here with Eastern Research Group, with over 12 years of experience in the realm of the Clean Air Act, with the last 6 years of that spent as part of ERG's team supporting EPA's RMP enforcement program, both at a headquarters and regional level. I'm also ERG's deputy program manager for that program, and I have conducted, supported, and managed over 100 RMP inspections and enforcement cases, and I've also facilitated training in support of EPA, the U.S. Department of Justice, and other state and local clients. And with that, I'll kick things back to Brooke to continue on with our presentation.
Thanks, Zach. So I think next we kind of wanted to get into a little bit the purpose and scope of this audit and evaluation. So as Nicole previously mentioned, ERG has been contracted to conduct a full facility audit and management systems evaluation of the Martinez Refining Company, or MRC. Through that, ERG will conduct an overall review of the management systems that are in place to implement the California Accidental Release Prevention, or the CalARP, and the county's Industrial Safety Ordinance, ISO, requirements at MRC. Through that, we will have a particular focus with our audit on human factors and contractor management, process safety requirements, as well as leadership oversight of the process safety program at the refinery. And so just a little more context to that last slide, as I know there have been a variety of different investigations and audits that have been done in the past few years at the MRC facility. So this evaluation that we're doing was primarily going to comprise of an overall review of the management systems that are in place at MRC to manage process safety. And we'll be looking at the effectiveness of the facility's safety programs, and we'll be looking to develop recommendations to improve process safety management through our review. And it will be, more of a holistic review, kind of looking at all of the covered processes at the facility there, not focused on any one in particular. So what we're not specifically including what this evaluation is really not meant to be, or not meant to serve as, is a specific investigation of historical incidents, or investigation into those incident investigations that have previously been done. We may, of course, request information related to those past incidents, and an understanding of the facility's overall incident investigation program and management of that program through this, but it's not intended to be a specific incident investigation. And while this is a full facility audit in that it covers the entire facility, it's not intended to be a comprehensive process safety audit of all applicable requirements. So I think when an example perhaps is, we may typically look at, for example, mechanical integrity or maintenance records, and at a kind of typical just normal compliance audit, we'd be seeing is there a piping inspection that was missed, or we think the frequency of that inspection doesn't align with industry standards, and looking at that. In this case, we may be looking at that, but really we'd be kind of looking at one step behind that, which is, why is that happening, and what's going on with the management system at the facility to cause that, that frequency to be set, and how are they reviewing their mechanical integrity inspection frequency to see if there's more to look at there, or any potential recommendations that we might develop. Okay, and so with that, I'm actually going to pass it over to Anthony, who will dive in a little bit deeper with that purpose that we just talked about, in terms of how we'll actually, approach this evaluation and audit, and go through that a little bit, and talk a little bit about our deliverables and timeline for our review.
Thanks, Brooke. So as Brooke described, we're doing an evaluation that focuses on the management systems, the process safety management systems at MRC. So the process safety regulations, like the CalARP program, the Industrial Safety Ordinance requirements, the federal RMP requirements, these are what are called performance-based regulations. Performance-based means they require the minimum of what process safety outcomes a facility should achieve. So when we say we're looking at management systems, we're looking at the systems that govern the means of how a facility achieves those outcomes. So it's not just focusing on, are they achieving the minimum required outcomes, but how are they achieving those outcomes, the means in which they achieve those outcomes, the systems in place for achieving those outcomes. So focusing on these these process safety management systems. So to do that, we will be relying as key guidance the Center for Chemical Process Safety's guidelines for risk-based process safety. The Center for Chemical Process Safety, a division of the American Institute of Chemical Engineers, or CCPS. This publication discusses guidelines and technical approaches for achieving different process safety elements. So we will be using like the principles and implementation guidelines within this guidance as guidance for our audit of the MRC management systems. In addition to this, as Brooke mentioned, our evaluation will include a focus on these 3 additional topics of human factors, contractor management, and overall leadership oversight. The CCPS, risk-based process safety elements, both directly connect to these 3, I'll say, special topics of interest. Additionally, these 3 topics of interest will form a lens for us to evaluate the management systems that for complying with the CalARP and ISO requirements. As part of our evaluation, we'll also look at past incident investigations, past inspection and audit reports to identify any trends in observations, findings, and recommendations. As part of our evaluation, there's numerous resources we'll be using and referencing. This is just a selection of some, so we'll certainly look through the and reference the breadth of guidance documents that CCH HMP has published. There's also numerous industry guidances, so there's numerous publications from CCPS, risk-based process safety, guidelines for risk-based process safety, as I mentioned, guidelines for auditing process safety management systems, and there's actually numerous others that we'll be referencing, as well as others through, such as Chemical Manufacturers Association or, American Petroleum Institute standards and recommended practices. So there's a wide array of industry standards and guidances of which we are pretty well familiar with that we'll use as references throughout our approach. Next slide. So the CCPS guidelines for risk-based process safety, it talks about 20 process safety elements. So to use this document, this guideline document, as a guidance for or a lens for our evaluation, what we did is we mapped these CCPS process safety elements to all of the applicable requirements under the CalARP and ISO regulations. So this is to ensure that when we're using the CCPS publication as a lens for viewing process safety management systems, we can make sure that we've connected to and are inclusive of all requirements under the CalARP and ISO programs. So we don't need to read through this table in detail right now, but I'll just kind of give you a highlight. The 20 CCPS process safety elements generally fall into 4 pillars. So the first pillar is commit to process safety. The second pillar is understand hazards and risks. And then the third one, if you want to switch to the next slide, is manage risks. And then the fourth one is learn from experience. So this is, I know, a little bit of a busy table. There's a lot in there, but taking those 4 pillars and then the 20 process safety elements within it and connecting them to all of the CalARP and ISO requirements. So just as a way of just mapping how the guidance document will connect to all of the applicable regulations under both CalARP and ISO. Next slide. So as a general means of conducting our evaluation, this will include a request for documents both before the audit and during and afterwards, after the on-site audit. Those information requests will include requests for documents such as policies, procedures, and various records. During the on-site portion of the audit, we will conduct personnel interviews. These will include managers with oversight responsibilities of process safety management systems, as well as other personnel who are involved in the various management systems, and certainly including the hourly employees in operations and maintenance as appropriate as well. And pending agreement with the representative employees at MRC, we'll also try to conduct a focus group of represented personnel. And during the on-site audit portion, we will also conduct some equipment and field observations during our time there. Next slide. So the products of our evaluation will include a report, an audit report, and associated technical presentations. So there will be an initial draft, which will then be presented to you all of the Oversight Committee. We will take your comments and use that to prepare a modified draft, which will then be presented for public review. And then public comments incorporated into a final draft, which will be presented to the ad hoc committee for review. During that public review process, any public comments CCHHMP will collect and collate public comments, and then CCHHMP then may direct ERG to provide some recommended responses to some public comments. So any public comments that CCHHMP shares with us, we will prepare recommended responses. And as a product or as a deliverable of our evaluation, we'll attend oversight committee meetings, such as this one, and public meetings as requested by the county. So this is a tentative timeline of our evaluation. So this is preliminary at this point. But the process will begin with pre-audit coordination meetings, which are currently in process. We'll be coordinating with MRC and representative employee representation. We anticipate sending a request for information before the on-site audit, and that'll probably be sent to them within the next couple of weeks. The on-site portion of the audit is tentatively scheduled for the week of October 6th through the 10th. Our schedule anticipates that within 60 days of receiving all documents requested from MRC, we'll prepare our initial draft audit report, which of course is then presented to the Oversight Committee. Within 30 days of receipt of comments from the Oversight Committee, we plan to prepare our modified draft of the audit report. That modified draft is then presented to the public during the public comment period. And then following the public comment period, after collection of any public comments, within 45 days of those public comments, we anticipate preparing the final audit report and then presenting that final audit report to the ad hoc committee as requested. So that's the end of our presentation of like the overview of our planned evaluation. So Nicole, if you wanted to, I'll kick it back over to you if you want to field any questions.
Yeah, thank you, Anthony. Yeah, so again, we will take questions from our Oversight Committee members, but I do want to thank ERG for this presentation and overview. I think it is very helpful to kind of shed some additional light on what the expected work products will be and what the process is going to look like. And I do just want to reiterate, I think Brooke illustrated a very good example. This is very different than a compliance audit. So Contra Costa Health has continued and will continue to do all required, triannual audits of Martinez Refining Company. Additionally, we have provided all of our information from our audits, unannounced inspections, safety inspections, and all of the work products that have been produced to date from the Oversight Committee. Additionally, the use of CCPS, I think if you will all recall, Scott Berger also used the 20 risk-based process safety elements and the 4 pillars when going through his safety culture evaluation. So there is a very nice tie-in there as well. But just really appreciate the presentation. I'm going to open it now to our Oversight Committee members. I saw Heidi's hand first and then Tony. So Heidi, go ahead.
Okay, I have 6 questions. First is for Anthony and Sarah. You don't have any conflicts with MRC, do you?
No, ma'am.
No. So we have our company has we have a strict conflict of interest process. So as Brooke said in the beginning, so we have a A lot of our work, most of our work is with the federal government, with state governments. So we do not work with the regulated community in this arena.
And
Okay,
Heidi, if I can
yeah.
also add, part of the process for doing the contracts through contract cost of health is also to screen for any conflict of interest. And that is something that we do screen for when engaging with any of our consultants for this work.
Good, thank you. Okay, so it's my understanding then that you all are going to go back. I understand you're not going to get into the guts of what's happened in the past, but you are going to look at like the November 2022 spent catalyst release in terms of what happened and try to determine whether or not there's a pattern in practice or what's going on. Brooke, I so appreciate you shaking your head. Thank you. Okay, so we're on the same page with all of that. Next is, so I understand it's not a comprehensive process safety audit of all applicable requirements, but we really need assurance that this audit is going to provide us the means to cure, if that's the right word, whatever patterns have happened in the past. So are you planning to give us those very specific changes that need to happen at MRC?
Yeah, so the plan is for our focus is on, like, we keep using this term management systems, but the idea being like the how or the means of how outcomes are achieved. So how they implement operating procedure program, their process hazard analysis program, their mechanical integrity program, focusing on the how and the means of that. The design there, the intent there is so we could look for opportunities for recommendations, for improvement, in the kind of like behind the curtain actions, right? The behind the scenes actions, like what's happening behind the scenes within different like divisions or departments within the facility, communication of personnel, policies and procedures in place. So focusing on that how and the means, if that makes sense. Yeah, the idea being there to, yes, like identify any opportunities for improvement or opportunities for corrective action, opportunities for making some sort of change to how things are being done.
Okay. And will you also be reviewing or assessing how they communicate with the community or public members of the public, and looking at how they could improve that as well?
Yeah, so I know to at least some extent, and I think we're open to, Nicole, your thoughts on this avenue in particular. Certainly the community warning system was something on our radar to look at. So the getting back to that catalyst release incident. So the community warning system and how the facility identifies events that require activation of the community warning system. That definitely has been on our radar. Beyond that, it could be pretty broad when you talk about community outreach. That could be avenues like this forum right here. It could be how the facility reaches out for public for like claims, for submitting claims, right, for example, related to the catalyst release. So it's pretty broad, and I guess I'll just kind of defer to like the county and what the county would like us to do in that arena.
Yeah, so Heidi, this is definitely something that we have been discussing with ERG, and we have highlighted, communications to the public and the community warning system. And I think we will evaluate what we can. Just as a reminder, we do still have that case open with the DA for the failure to notify. So we just have to be cognizant of any potential, conflicts there. But we have talked about looking at a community engagement piece of this as well throughout the full facility audit process.
Will the action that is still pending with the DA in any way limit what ERG is going to investigate?
I don't have an answer for that at that time, Heidi. At this time, I'll have to get back to you.
Okay. And then Nicole, maybe this is for you. I really don't want to do all of this and then not be able to truly implement this stuff. And does the county have a mechanism in place to actually force MRC to do these recommendations?
Yeah, so thank you for bringing this up, Heidi. I actually was going to address this once you were done with your questions, but I just wanted to give that reminder that as with all of the external evaluations that we are doing, the expectation is that MRC will need to implement all corrective actions. We will also be looking at the corrective actions to see if there is any non-compliance with the regulations that we implement, being the California Accidental Release Prevention Program and Industrial Safety Ordinance. And our engineering team will be the ones who will be overseeing that process of completing the action items, and we will be able to bring reports back on the status of that to the public.
Okay, one final question, which seems crazy that I have to ask this, but given the current administration, there's nothing in play right now that would limit or affect your ability to do this investigation, right? The county is in charge of this, and to that extent, the state, right?
So that is correct. The county is the one who has engaged in the contract with ERG. As we have described in the past, the county will initially be the one who is responsible for making the payments to ERG, but then we charge that back to Martinez Refining Company. So from a federal perspective, there's nothing going on in the federal world that would inhibit our ability to continue this work and pay for it.
Thank God. Okay, thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Tony.
Okay, thank you. Heidi asked a lot of the questions that I have, but I have two additional questions. One is, do you cover anything regarding emergency response? Will you be looking at anything in that area?
Yep. Yes, that will be within the scope. Yeah, so the systems in place underlying the emergency response program will be within the scope. Yep.
Yeah, because I think that's important. Also, the mutual aid that the company is involved with, both municipal and industrial.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, one other quick, looking at the timeline, am I correct to assume that we're talking March or April of 26 before we have a final report?
So Tony, to address the timeline, what is represented here are the times in which ERG will be able to deliver work products. So yes, we will be looking potentially into 2026. A lot of this will also be determined upon how many public comments we receive. And then for doing that final report out will also depend on availability of our Board of Supervisors. For example, we are unable to do a final report out on GEM and TRC until the end of September because that was the first date that was available for the supervisors, even though we had completed the public comment period on June 21st and have been, building our responses. So I think it's too early to say March 2026, but looking at the timeline and knowing the other, items that will be built into when we can accomplish all of this, it will be sometime in 2026 for that final report.
Yeah, you know what my concerns have always been about the process, that we don't get into the weeds and this thing drags out for a year and we're looking at 12 months from now. We need to get this done. We need to get that information out. The Board of Supervisors have to act on it, and we need to move forward. So I'm just concerned about this thing dragging out. We need a comprehensive audit, and we need the results of that audit as soon as possible, and we need some action based on what they find as soon as possible.
Understood, Tony, and we have worked very hard to get these timelines as expedient as possible, and we will continue to do that.
I know, and I just want to compliment Nicole, because we've had this conversation many times, and the county has done a good job in trying to move the process along a lot quicker than we first did with the catalyst release. So thank you again.
Thank you, Tony. Okay, I see that Donna has her hand raised also for questions. So Donna, go ahead.
Yes, I'd like to know if ERG plans on interviewing any members of USW or consulting with USW in these matters?
Yeah, absolutely. Donna, thanks for asking. So we will be reaching out to both like MRC representatives as well as USW representatives. So I thank you, but yeah, certainly to the USW local to coordinate. I think imminently here. So I think very, very soon. I think both you and MRC again probably will be hearing from us just to start that kick off that coordination before arriving on site. So I think we'll be talking soon.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I will do a final call for questions or comments from Oversight Committee members before we go to the next part of our agenda. Okay, I'm not seeing any additional raised hands or anyone coming off of mute. So now we are going to move into our public comment period. So just again, as a reminder for all of the members of the public, if you would like to make a comment, we will allow you 2 minutes. Please raise your hand and then I will promote you to panelist so that you can make your comment. Okay, it does not appear that we have any members of the public who wish to make a comment right now. So I am now going to move into the roundtable discussion. This is an opportunity for members of the Oversight Committee to bring forward any items that they want to discuss with the Oversight Committee that weren't on the agenda, or if there's something that has come up that you didn't get a chance to ask earlier in our agenda, to go ahead. And I know Tony had an item he wanted to bring forward, so. Tony, we'll start with you and then I'll see if anyone else has comments.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So we're into the portion of the meeting where there's comments unrelated to ERG.
Correct.
Okay,
Tony.
these are not related to ERG and the current audit. You alluded to the fact that we had a meeting on June 17th, 9 weeks ago. And at that time, we were given the report from GEM of the RCA. The meeting turned out to be a little bit of a problem for me because it was we had 25 or 30 members of the building trades there, and we seemed to focus on one part of the report. In fact, if you have your report in front of you, on page page 9 of that report. Causal factor number 1 alluded to SB 25 or 24. I'm sorry, 54. My screen went white here. Did you do something? Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Tony. Your video is frozen, but we were still able to hear you.
Hello. Oh. Oh, okay. So I was alluding to the fact that on page 9 of GEM's report, there was an issue regarding SB 54. I don't want to get into SB 54, but what I want to get into is the way we ended that meeting was the question that was asked by the building trades was never completed. There was no answer to the question they had. And in fact, the building trades wound up telling the 2 individuals who did the audit that they were lying, that they had a problem with unions. And this doesn't set well with me, because if indeed that is accurate,
Oh, Tony, we seem to have lost. Okay, it seems like Tony is having some technical
about it.
difficulties.
And
Tony,
under the ISO. Hello?
no, Tony, you're having technical issues. You're getting cut off. We can't hear you anymore.
All right. Can you hear me now?
Sort of, but there is still some choppiness to it.
All right, what I'm going to do, Nicole, I'm going to get on a laptop and come in as I'll come in as Lori's laptop, okay?
Okay.
So I'm gonna just get off for a few minutes and see. I'm having problems here.
We're gonna allow Tony time to join in via another device. And while we do that, I want to ask the other members of the Oversight Committee if you have anything that you would like to bring to the roundtable discussion. Donna, go ahead.
I believe that Tony may have started a conversation about the building trades and SB 54. And I have, I think, written some aspects to that in that last meeting with the public. I want to, I'm hoping that any guests that we have that, investigators, people who come to conclusions, have reports to make, are treated with dignity and respect. And even though I don't agree a lot with a lot of the GEM report, I believe that everyone deserves common decency and respect. And I felt that that meeting really got out of hand by making personal attacks, and that should not have been allowed. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. No, I appreciate that comment. I will be working with our CEI team to see in the future what we can do. We have been structuring the meetings very similar to how our Board and Brown Act meetings have been structured, even though these are not Board or Brown Act meetings. We did do a reminder at both this meeting and a subsequent meeting that was not related to MRC about maintaining decorum of the meeting as well. So I'm going to be looking at addressing that for the future, but I do appreciate everyone who has reached out to me to discuss this matter. Heidi.
Can you let us know where it stands now? I mean, I don't know if that has been taken out or if it's being considered. And then the other thing that I would love an update on, Nicole, is there are several things that County Health is following up on with MRC that have time deadlines. And I'm just wondering if you could bring us up to speed on that, if you have that handy.
Yeah, so to address the second part of your question, we did do a update, on where we were on action items. There are many action items where the due date is still not passed. We do have our team continuing to work on that through the oversight. The next date I know that is coming up is that at the end of September, that is when MRC is supposed to have completed their survey for the safety culture assessment. And we have been talking with Ken Axe and MRC regarding that. So I think at the next oversight committee meeting, we can have the engineering team do a full update on where we stand with all of the various recommendations. I was just doing a quick check to see if Tony came back on before I answered your first question. I don't see him yet. But for your first question, yes, so we did have discussions, Contra Costa Health did, with GEM to discuss the SB 54 item that was brought up. During our discussions, what we found is that in terms of the determinations that were made, it was largely based on minimal interviews, and we felt that there was not enough information to sustain the conclusions and determinations that had been come up with. And so when we evaluated that and looked at the recommendations, what we determined was that this contributing factor has been removed. When you look at the recommendations that were made around this, the recommendations were all the same when it was regarding to the root cause. It was talking about MRC's responsibility and obligation to follow the law. The discussion of SB 54 did not tie into that at all. And so in the next iteration of the report, we do have that portion being removed. We have our draft response explaining the rationale behind that. That will be mailed out or emailed out to everybody who made a comment regarding SB 54 as part of our process before the final report will be sent out.
So will ERG take a look at that as well in the full facility audit in terms of whether or not there is a problem with who comes into the plant and is working there or can't work there or is quickly approved and not appropriately approved and all of that?
So what we are going to be focusing on is the contractor management system at MRC, which dictates MRC's responsibilities for ensuring that qualified trained contractors are performing the work on site in a safe manner. There is a variety of different requirements within the California Accidental Release Prevention Program and the Industrial Safety Ordinance around that. And that is where the deep dive is going to be taking a look into not only those requirements, but best practices around contractor safety management.
Okay, I just want to make this one point though. If in fact there is an issue with contractor management, and if in fact it does relate to SB 54, I would like that called out, because if that law needs to be repealed, I want to get all over that. And I want that connection to be clear. I don't want to be talking about something that, you know, I need the dots connected. Okay. I don't do this for a living. And so it seems to me Jim connected those dots for us, which I appreciate, and which is why I wish it had been left in. This is like one of those things in a court of law where the judge is going to let the evidence in, and the judge gets to determine the weight or the relevance of the evidence. And I think that that should be the case here. So that if it turns out to be not that important, okay, but having at least a reference to it in the report would allow us all to go, maybe I should go check out SB 54 and determine for ourselves whether or not that's something we want to take up in Sacramento or not.
Understood, Heidi. Thank you. Okay, Tony, I saw that you're back on. I'm working on promoting you to panelist so that you can finish your discussion. We did have a little bit of discussion as well related to the meeting itself and SB 54, just to catch you up. Okay, Tony, I'm going to try this instead. I've given you permission to speak. Maybe go ahead and try, and so we can hear your comments. Okay, I'm not sure what is going on. I'm still having issues connecting to Tony. Tony, I will follow up with you just to make sure that we address your issue. Craig, I do see that your hand is raised because you did join in after we had completed the public comment session. I am going to allow you to have your 2 minutes to speak because you did not get the opportunity at that time during the agenda. So I will be promoting you now. And Tony, if you want to try the chat as well, we can do that, but I'm hoping we can get you connected to us. Okay, Craig, you may go ahead and start. Your 2 minutes begins now. Just as a warning, I will be giving a verbal reminder when you're down to your last 10 seconds.
Okay, thank you for giving me the time to comment since I called in late. I'm very disappointed but not surprised about the removal of SB 54. As a resident who's lived within a few blocks of the refinery for 25 years, I deserve to know every possible reason or contributing factor or any factor that deals with the safety of that refinery and the quality of the workforce. I have that right, and a transparent process would provide for an investigation that looked at every single issue, because every single issue matters. Nothing's isolated. When it comes to safety, we should be doing all the above. It's not either or. You know, everything in politics is always have to be boiled down to black and white, either or, and things are so much more complicated. And, you know, this shows how our government system does not work. Our political system is broken. And, you know, we wonder why people lose trust in government and lose trust in politics and politicians. They see the influence of the special interest in the BTC here. Here we have a case where a special interest group that literally spends hundreds of thousands of dollars on elections has gone to browbeat an independent committee into removing something from the report. So that it's not independent anymore. There is no independence. It's special interest influence. What if the refinery has spent thousands of dollars on political campaigns and turned around and pressured those politicians to take something out of this report that they didn't like? There would be outrage. There would be community outrage. But because this is Contra Costa County, this is Martinez, and we're, quote, a union town, that means that as long as you have the word union in your name,
10 seconds.
You can say or do whatever the hell you want. There's no accountability. The same rules don't apply to you that apply to everybody else. That's the way it works. That's broken politics, whether it's oligarchs, whether it's Elon Musk, whether it's any special interest. That's
Time is up, Craig.
politics. And it needs to end and it needs to stop. Because this is not the first time independent inquiry has been hijacked. Not the first time, and it won't be the last, I'm afraid. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment, Craig. Okay, I'm trying one last time to get Tony Semenza on here. Okay, Tony, you should have permission to speak now. If you could try speaking so we can hear what you wanted to bring forward to the Oversight Committee. Okay, it looks like we lost Tony, everybody, so apologies for that. But with that, that does bring us to the end of our agenda for today. Just a reminder that the meeting minutes, the recording of this meeting, and the presentation that was done by ERG will be posted online. And just also as a reminder, we are working on getting those communications sent out as responses to everyone who did make a comment at our public meeting and during our 45-day public comment period. September 29th is going to be the ISO ad hoc committee meeting where we will be hearing final presentations. So everyone, please mark that on your calendar. And then we will get another oversight committee meeting set to do another progress report on both all of the evaluations that are being overseen and also for the action items that are being completed as a result of the evaluations of both this incident and the spent catalyst incident. So thank you very much, everyone, for your attendance today, and we will be providing more information shortly. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, Cheryl.
I'm sorry. I'm just wondering, I know you said that you would get with Tony and see what his concerns were, but then it kind of leaves the rest of us out from understanding completely what he was trying to say. So I'm wondering if we could do it by email so he could state what the issue is, and then we all kind of get involved. We all understand what he's saying.
Yep, that's the plan, and I want to update him too on the conversation that he missed because there's I think potentially a tie into all of this topic.
Great, thank you so much. Great to see everybody again. Never get rotator cuff surgery, and see you later.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Okay, bye-bye.